Hey, beautiful people. Welcome to the Fearless Challenge, day 18 conversation. If I sound a little not bossy, if I sound a little passionate about this, it's because it's what I freaking believe to be true. So I believe, what the heck was the prompt? I should probably tell you that. The prompt is dun, da, 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 fearlessly take a position on a topic in my industry. It says controversial. I don't know if this is controversial or not. Maybe. Um, maybe for the people who don't know that it's true about them or they haven't considered one of the categories I'm going to talk about, but it is my belief that every single person, except for maybe like Buddhist monks that don't come across real people, other than themselves, is impacted by addiction. Now, do I mean that it's every human is addicted? If I was allowed to bet, I'd say probably that's true for at least 90% of the world, but I'm not allowed to bet. So I will say that everybody's impacted because it's not just, I interview a lot of guests and they talk about they've never, they didn't grow up in an addictive family and or they married someone who was addicted and they didn't know the signs and things like that. So I don't think that necessarily everybody is a traditional textbook addict. And I know I'm not supposed to use that word so much, but you know what I'm saying. But let's say you have a job, or let's say your kid goes to school. The chances of someone in that job or school or whatever being some sort of an addict is quite high. And how that impacts your family or you, or your job or your career, can be obvious or it could be not obvious. Hopefully we're talking about things a little more and people are starting to get more help. You may not ever know. I didn't find out that my gambling addiction was impacting my employees until after I was in recovery and somebody's like, oh yeah, your behavior changed. Oh yeah, that wasn't quite you. Or the work parties where the executives were like, she's a little too party heavy, so maybe we don't want her representing us. Um, which meant then that I couldn't connect. I might have been doing harm all the way to the final customer, right? Because if I'm a shit show at a event and I can't connect with someone to buy good stuff from, and then I can't sell the good stuff, like it can go on and on. My last job, we were the face and we would go into a store that had customers. So you can't tell me that workplace didn't have addiction, right? Whether it was the customers or the employees or whatever, everybody is impacted by addiction. And let me be clear that I'm not just talking about gambling and alcohol like I normally do. I'm including all the things. We've talked about porn and sex on the show. We've talked about food and sugar. We've talked about, what else did we talk about? We've talked about a lot of addictions, drugs, but then there's also these ones that might not seem so obvious. Exercising, a good, healthy addiction, right? Technology, or our computer, our phones. Who's addicted to that? What about Tinder and dating? Are there people that are addicted to like that high that you get when the girl or the boy writes you back? Um, I know somebody that's in that wheelhouse right now, and I've had another friend back in Kansas, and when they get in these dating apps, it's like all consuming. They're not paying attention to their life, right? It's all about the boys and the fun and the blah, 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 and all the things. You can't be present if you're in this cloud, whatever the cloud is. Could be, um, it could be your own fucking head. It could be books. You can be addicted to reading and books. People have said, use the language good addictions like an exercise or reading or learning, addicted to learning. OMG. I have some friends that are so into learning that they never execute on what they've learned. They just go on and on and on. They want the next new piece of information, but all the information isn't good if you don't use it. So I really believe that everybody is addicted to something. Maybe it's to giving. Is that an addiction when someone just gives and donates and volunteers and all of that? Sure, it sounds great, but if they're doing that and there's something else brewing in the background, maybe they don't have a good relationship with their kids, maybe they're not performing at their day job, whatever the things are, it's just as detrimental as if you're gambling or drinking. Now, if you're drinking or drugging, you can kill someone in a car wreck. If you're gambling, you could do harm to yourself and your finances and your family and all of those things. It's not just about the harm that comes out of it. And this is kind of, I'm actually having an aha as we speak, because I never really thought about that. We talk about, like in 12 steps, being powerless over the thing, but I never made that distinction. And the other step is our lives have become unmanageable. If we're not paying attention to our lives because we're addicted to the thing, whether it's let's use healthy or unhealthy, it doesn't make you less addicted. It's not helping you live a quality life, a fulfilling life, a happy life. Are you doing what you want to do, or are you just always running? Are you showing up for yourself? Do you know yourself? Do you love yourself? Are you making time for yourself? Are you doing any of those things if you're doing all those other things? So I am convinced, and it would take a lot to sway me on this, that everybody is impacted by addiction. Maybe those Buddhist monks I mentioned, maybe they're addicted to meditating. I don't know. Everybody's culture and everybody's routine, but based on what I can see in the US and Canada and Europe and the people that I know from around the world, there's a lot going on. And we're escaping. And I'd like to raise my hand and say, oh, let's stop escaping. Let's freaking figure it out. All right, the buffalo story. The buffalo story is relevant here. I love the story. I learned it at a marketing workshop a couple of years ago. And a guest speaker was explaining this to me, but I've heard it since, so it must be around. But here's the essence of it. There's buffaloes and there's cows, and a storm is coming. And the buffalo, the cow's like running, trying to beat the storm, right? Like the storm's coming south, the cow's running. Two cows run as fast as it can. And then there's the buffalo, and the buffalo's like, oh, the storm's coming. And instead of running south to outrun the storm, the buffalo turns and goes right through the storm. Now, if you think about size-wise, right? So let's pretend this is hard in reverse on camera, but the cow's running away, right? And the storm's eventually going to get them. But if you're the buffalo and the storm's coming and you go towards it, you get to the other side. So like, confront your shit. Stop escaping. I'm yelling at you a little bit. If you're hearing me, you need to be yelled at a little bit, I guess. Because here's the thing, it gets really freaking cool on the other side when you just confront and you get to the other side of it. Kai and I went to a conference and we were joking all the way about being the buffalo. It was in the middle of Hurricane Ian. It was not responsible of me to go in hindsight, but because of my belief system that I'm put here for a reason and all my actions are for a reason and purpose, and that I don't want to say I'm not going to die. I guess I'll die someday, but I feel pretty invincible because my work here is not done. But I probably shouldn't risk it for Kai, but she's a special soul too, and she's going to change the world even if she doesn't know it yet. Anyway, I digress. So we tell my mother, I call my mother and I say, hey, we're being buffaloes, because instead of running away from the hurricane like everybody else, we drove through the hurricane to get to where we were. And it was dangerous, and I'm not advocating for this. However, my belief system and this practice of being the buffalo and confronting the storm got us through. Like, we literally got to the other side. We saw some rain, and that was about the extent of it. Now, it might have been our geography, but there was places around it would have been timing, right? If I timed it different, if I waited the storm out, if I did, so many different things can happen. Anyway, confront your shit. That's the moral of the story. Confront your shit. Take a look in the mirror and go, how am I spending my time? How am I feeling about my relationships, my children, my work performance, my health, my money? How am I feeling about those things? Am I addressing things as they come up, or am I just running the other way? All right, rant over, beautiful people. I hope that you will take a look and just give this some consideration. Not because like I want to be right about this, but because I want you to have the best life possible, and you can't if you're always running. All right, I'll see you guys soon. Thank you.